Alright, welcome back to equation solving, but in this situation we're going to be equation solving and fraction elimination. We're going to be getting rid of these fractions. So these equations as they are now, they look a little nasty, they look a little scary, but if we just eliminate the fractions, if we just get rid of these fractions, these are going to turn into equations that you guys are used to and are fairly good at equation solving. So I'm going to do two examples. I'm going to do example 1 and example 2 with you, and I'm going to do both of them in two different ways. And you can do the rest of them then in whichever way you feel most comfortable with. So let's look at example 1. Again, if I take 4/5 minus 1/3 x equals -2, if I just get rid of these fractions, this is going to be an easy problem to do. Well, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to think about this almost kind of like the WOMPs from last year in 7th grade, where you had mugwump and bugwump, and the family members were just proportional scales up of mug. So what I can do with this similar idea, I'm going to scale this up. I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to multiply it by, let's say, 5. I chose 5 because one of my denominators is 5 here. By doing that, I'm going to eliminate this 4/5, because 5 times 4/5, this in the numerator, I multiply fractions, 5 times 4 is going to be 20, 1 times 5 is going to be 5, but that's going to reduce because the 5s are going to cancel out, and I'm just going to be left with 4. But I have to multiply everything by 5. If I'm scaling up one piece, I have to scale up everything to maintain its equality. So I'm going to multiply this term here also by 5, which gives me minus 5/3 x, and I have to multiply 5 times this -2, and that gives me -10. Well, that's not bad. I got rid of one of my fractions. I still have this fraction. So again, I'm going to do the same process and scale it up this time by 3 because of this denominator here of 3. So 3 times 4 is going to be 12. Again, I have to multiply everything. I have to scale everything up by 3, make everything 3 times bigger. But again, now I'm multiplying 3 times -5/3. This 3 and this 3 are going to cancel out. I'm just going to be left with 5x, the numerator and the x. And then 3 times the last term, which will give me 3 times -10, -30. Just by scaling this up by 5 and then by 3, I have an equation now that is much easier to solve, and I can go through my normal two-step equation solving skills to solve it. Subtract 12 from both sides. -5x is equal to -42, and divide by -5. X is equal to 42/5. Now that's not a pretty fraction, but I can leave it as it is, and that's my answer. I'm going to do example 2 now in a slightly different way. Same process. I'm going to still be scaling it up, but this is actually a quicker method. I'm going to be doing something using the LCD, the least common denominator. What is the least common denominator between 5 and 8? What I'm asking is, what number can both 5 and 8 go into evenly? Well, that number would be 40. 5 times 8 is 40, and 8 times 5 is 40. So if I scale this entire equation up by 40 to begin with, rather than multiplying it by 5 like I did in the first one and then by 8 in the second step, I can just skip that, combine those two steps, and multiply the entire equation scaled up by 40, and I can get rid of the fractions in one step. 40 times 2x over 5, the 5 and the 40 are going to, 5 goes into 40 8 times. So I'm going to really be multiplying 8 times 2x, which gives me 16x. And then when I take the 40 times the -1/8, 8 goes into 40 5 times. So I'm really taking 5 times 1, and I'm going to have -5. And then again, I have to still multiply my third term here by 40 because everything must get scaled up by the same amount. So 40 times 1 is 40. You see, in that one step, by using the least common denominator, I was able to eliminate the fractions in one step. I have a two-step equation now, and this is something I think everybody can solve at this point. Add 5 on both sides. I have 16x is equal to 45, and divide by 16. X equals 45 over 16. Again, my answer is a fraction, but mainly this year, guys, we want you to get comfortable with seeing fractions, and because in real life, most times you're working with any type of mathematical situation, you're going to end up with a fraction or a decimal. So it's good to get used to it now. So go ahead and try to complete questions 3, 4, 5, 6, and then also the problems on the back. Don't get too worried if your answers end up being fractions. Some of them will, some of them won't. And try either one of the methods by either scaling it up by the individual denominators in separate steps, or by trying to find the least common denominator and doing it in one step. Good luck.